Yo guys, what's going on? My name is Ryan and welcome back to a brand new video on the HFSB News channel, and today we're doing a Let's Talk. It's time for that time of the week again. It's the Let's Talk time. I don't know why I was going with that one, but as you can see, I'm by myself. Jamie will be joining us though, don't worry, he will be joining us for the MotoGP. He's been on F1 duties this weekend, so he wasn't able to watch Moto3 and Moto2, so he didn't really know. He knows the results obviously, but he didn't really know what happened throughout the weekend. So you're joined by me for Moto3 and Moto2. MotoGP will be with Jamie. He will be back with us in a little while. But before we start, if you go down in the comment section below, if you just want to watch the MotoGP reaction, because that race was absolutely incredible for all the wrong reasons, then there is some timestamps down below so you can skip to Moto3, Moto2 or MotoGP. Now, before we start, we're going to just quickly have a look back at what happened 2 weeks ago in Qatar. And obviously, in all three classes, it was some quite cool racing. Moto3, Martin, Canet and Bastianini just pulled away from the group. And it was a three-man battle for the win, which then became two when Bastianini crashed out of the race at the hairpin. Then there was a bit of a scrap between Canet and Martin. Then Canet was kind of rehearsing it every single time. Like, do I pass him? No, okay, but I know I can pass him there. And then a bit further back, really big scraps going on. We have Ertl knocking Binder off. We have McPhee coming through from 23rd back up to 4th. We have Bezzecchi being knocked off by Kornfeil. We have loads of just action going on. Really big scrap. We have Kaito Toba suddenly joining the group out of absolutely nowhere. And then we also had the final lap as well, where we thought Aaron Canet was going to slipstream Martin to the line, but didn't. And unfortunately for Aaron Canet, he didn't get the win. Looking into Moto 2, it was a bit more of a similar story. We have one rider pulling away, Francesco Bagnaia. Baldassarri did kind of catch him there, bringing Márquez in with him. Márquez then had a few issues with the rear brake. It stuck, it got glowing red, really, really hot. And unfortunately for Alex, he couldn't continue at the same pace that he was because he had this binding rear brake. On the KTM side of things, Oliveira and Brad Binder, bit of a poor weekend for them. KTM don't really work very well around Qatar. Not quite sure why. Few tyre issues here and there as well thrown into the mix. You had Danny Kent with a bit of a dodgy rear tyre. Romano Fenati had another rear tyre issue as well. And they dropped right their way back down the field. And also Sam Lowes on the KTM had a false neutral, bit of a mechanical issue with the gearbox. Iker Lecuona had a mechanical issue and retired. So the KTMs had a really bad weekend 2 weeks ago. And hopefully they'll be looking to put things right for Argentina. But last lap in Qatar, Baldassarri took the lead ahead of Bagnaia. And eventually Bagnaia just pipped him back on the exit of the corner, pushing him behind the curb. And he took his first Moto2 win on the Sky VR 4016 with Baldassarri in second position and Alex Márquez taking third place and the final podium spot after his little bit of an issue with the whole brake issue. Moving into MotoGP, the main event, and it did not fail to impress. We had a big group of riders fighting it out for the lead, letting Zarco lead the way all race because tyre wear was a big worry for everybody. So they let Zarco push all race at the front. He shot his tyres, dropped back through the field. Dovizioso and Márquez shot through. Lorenzo had a brake failure and crashed out of the race. And like I said, Dovizioso, Lorenzo's teammate, got to the front, started pulling away. Márquez closed him down. Rossi went with them slightly, but lost his way a little bit in the last couple of laps, struggling to turn with the front tyre, just going off a little bit and had to run wide. He lost a bit of time. Márquez then dives it down the inside on the final corner of the final lap. The third final corner showdown we've had between Dovizioso and Marc Márquez. Andrea Dovizioso won again. It's 3-0 to Dovi. Dovizioso picked up 25 points in Qatar. Márquez picked up 20 and Valentino Rossi rounding off the podium in third position. 16 points for the Doctor at the end of the first round. Maverick Vinales, the other Movistar Yamaha rider, he pulled his way back through. He did the opposite of Zarco. Very, very cautious at the start and went full on attack mode on the last 10 laps. He managed to grab himself a P6 at the end of the first round of the season. So that was the story of Qatar, and what a story it was. And Argentina, the whole weekend, is another story in itself. And we're going to start off with Moto3 FP1 because the first session of the weekend, the first session of the day, and it was a controversial one to say the least, with Aaron Canet and Makar Yushchenko. Now, Yushchenko is obviously a rookie. He's riding for the CIP Green Power team, and on his KTM, it's his second race in Moto3. You know, he's learning the circuit. He was coming around. He was on an outlap. He was going through a right-hander, and he basically kind of blocked Aaron Canet a little bit. It kind of took his eye line. Canet went off the track, waving his arms. He pushed then to catch Yushchenko to make a point and pass him, and it went very wrong. At the final, penultimate corner, where, interestingly, everything happened at the final kind of right before the little left, the penultimate corner. Everything happened there this weekend and has happened in the past as well. Up the inside at the final corner, it kind of sat the bike up and went across Yushchenko's line, clipping Yushchenko's front tyre. Both of them go down. That was a deliberate, clear as day in my eyes, a deliberate attack from Aaron Canet to knock Makar Yushchenko off or push him off the track or force another rider off the track, basically. And he got away with it. No penalty at all, which, in my view, was wrong. He should have been given a penalty in FP1, even if it was just you missed 15 minutes of qualifying like they did last year when people were looking for toes. They gave him a time penalty in qualifying. You have to miss a certain amount of time. That would have been okay because, you know, he still got punished, but to do no punishment. And that kind of then led on to more serious things in other classes, which we'll get onto when Jamie gets in for MotoGP in a few minutes' time, in about 10-20 minutes' time, I'm hoping this little stint is not going to be too long. But anyway, moving on to qualifying day now, Moto3. The grid was looking really, really interesting because it was a very awkward session for Moto3. It rained, it dried up, the track got quicker, and then it rained again and the track got wetter. It then got quicker, it then dried and the track got a little bit quicker, and then it got quicker again when the rain came. But unfortunately for a few riders, they kind of took a bit of a gamble and it didn't pay off. They kind of went out early, they sat in late. It was all a bit all over the place. But Tony Arbolino on the Maridelli River Cold Snipers, he got pole position, his first pole position on that bike, ahead of Marco Bezzecchi on the Prusto GP. And then rounding off the front row was homeman Gabriel Rodrigo on the RBA BOE school rider. Heading the second row was Malaysian Adam Noureddin, who, if you remember, last year or a few years ago, he was en route for a podium, but high-sided on the final lap on that final penultimate corner, and unfortunately that was the end of his attack. He's ahead of two Italians, Bastianini and Di Gianantonio. Antonelli heads the third row with the two championship contenders, Aaron Canet and Jorge Martin, the two leaders in the championship, 8th and 9th. Mino 10th. Juan Masaya on his best at Capital Dubai. It's his first time here, his second race of the season, but I think it's 5th or 6th Grand Prix overall. He's ahead of Arenas, Sasaki, Foggia, who put in a really impressive weekend in my opinion. In 14th position, Dalla Porta, podium last time out in Qatar. He managed to get himself a P15. Livio Loy in 16th, Mazaki 17th. Kornfeil, the man who knocked off his teammate, he's down in 18th position with Suzuki and Ertl rounding out the top 20. Then you're looking down the rest of the order, you have Lopez in 21st, McPhee in 22nd, Atarat Pumapat in 23rd, Kaito Toba in 24th, Darren Binder in 25th position, Marcos Ramirez and Bulliger down in 26th and 27th. Them three names, Binder, Ramirez and Bulliger, you would expect them to be much, much higher than what it was. And then Makar Yushchenko, CIP Green Power KTM, rounding off the field in 28th position. So that was the setup for the race until the race actually begun. Because after the warm-up lap, they went round on the warm-up lap, Jorge Martin and Philip Ertl decided to come into the pit lane because obviously it rained in the morning, it dried up throughout the day, and when it was race time for Moto3, it was very 50-50. Arbolino, he took the risk, he went with the slicks. Martin went with the wets until at the end of the warm-up lap. Like I said, himself and Ertl come into the pits to switch on to the dry tyres. And by the time, obviously there's one bike in Moto3, they have to switch the whole tyre, take the tyre out, put a new one in. They can't swap bikes. So, unfortunately for Martin, he lost about half a lap in the pit lane once the race got underway. But it was clear that poor Arbolino, he started on pole position, but he started on the wettest part of the track at that time. The dry line was more on the right-hand side of the circuit because that was where, you know, the racing line is. That's where the bikes have been going. But poor Arbolino started on the wet part on dry tyres, and he just spun up and dropped right the way down the order, all the way down to about 20th position, I think, in the end. But it was Marco Bezzecchi who took the lead, and he just cleared off. Like, honestly, there is no better way to say that. He cleared off. And obviously, we had a few issues throughout the field. We had guys kind of going on wrong tyres, but then coming back in the end. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But yeah, it was all a bit intense with the tyre choices that was going on. So, with Martin and Arbolino, that's it, on the slicks, we also had to wrap Poupapat on a wet front and a slick rear. I think there was a few of those kicking around. We haven't actually got the official tyre sheet anywhere. I don't think they upload that, so I can't exactly tell you what exact tyre everyone was on. So I was kind of having to go by looking at a TV and kind of thinking. But yeah, it was Bezzecchi on full wets. He cleared off, and he basically just dominated the race, controlled the gap for the whole race. But second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, around there was a really big group. Then a bit of a space, and then I think it was about 8th to 15th or something like that. It was another group. So yeah, there were two separate groups going on really, and it was really good actually. Really good racing, to be honest. They had a fairly clean race. They managed to get right up until 5 laps remaining before the first retirement. There was also a crash at the start for poor young Suzuki. He crashed out. I think he might have gambled with the slicks as well, and he did crash. Makar Yurchenko as well, the CIP Kazakhstani rider, he crashed out. He did rejoin and retire. Well, he didn't retire, he just got a lap down and finished the race 1 lap down. The retirements was Balega. He unfortunately just pulled into pit lane with 5 laps remaining. Not sure if his heel was causing him a bit of issues on that Sky Racing VR46 team. It's just not working for Balega at the moment, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's his heel, his injury, or if it's just the fact that he's just too big for the bike. I just don't know. We talked about it a little bit last time in the Qatar Let's Talk, myself and Jamie, and we just don't really know what's going on with Balega at the moment, and it's quite a shame because he has the talent to win the races. He has the talent to be there. So, yeah, not sure what's going on with Nicolo Balega, but he retired from the race with 5 laps to go. And it was all changed. We had a few guys just charging their way through. Bastianini charging his way back up through the order. He dropped down to about 8th or 9th position and really forced his way back through. And obviously, whilst that was going on, there was a scrap between DG, Norridin, Canet, Lopez, all fighting for position. Lopez being the youngest rider on the track, just 16 years old in his rookie season after his pretty impressive CEV year last year. And then the first crasher came, and that was Albert Arenas, who had a little bit of a moment earlier on in the race as well, after having to get sat up, and he sat up John McPhee and pushed him really wide. He dropped down from about 12th to 19th after that little, force wide, because he got put on the wet stuff, and he was on the wet tyres as well, so they were probably getting chewed up by the time he finished that race on that dry line. And it just really was quite intense, just because you had the guys on slicks getting faster and faster, setting fastest laps. Then you have the Bezzecchi on wets, setting fastest laps. And then you have, your wet tyres getting really just dropping off right at the end of the race. And it was really quite exciting to watch. It was more like an F1 Grand Prix. Strategy. Your strategy is important. And we saw in F1 with the Mercedes strategy putting Ferrari under pressure. Obviously, Ferrari managed to hold on. But with the Moto3 race, the strategy was important. The dry tyres, do you risk it and push as hard as you can all race? The wet tyres, do you push at the start and suffer at the end? Or, take it easy at the start and push at the end? It was like the MotoGP race in Qatar. Do I push to a Zarco or do I chill and do a Maverick? So, yeah, that was kind of playing in the back of the mind of everybody. And there was a few interesting names who was at the front. We had Messiah fighting for a podium. Incredible ride from him before, unfortunately, he decided to run into the back of DG and crash out of the race. We have Foggia, the rookie, he was running at the front before he unfortunately crashed out of the race with just 3 laps to go. Messiah 2 laps to go, so just a lap later at the same corner, the hairpin at the end of the long back straight, unfortunately catching those 2 out. We also had poor Darryn Binder, who did manage to get back on and finish ahead of Philipp Oertel, so God knows what Oertel did in that race. Not sure if he crashed, I don't think he did. I know he went out on the slicks, maybe he pit and went back in on the wets, I don't know. But that happened for Oertel. Binder, like I said, he crashed out a 2nd race in a row. First race in Qatar, he got took out by Oertel. 2nd race, he got took out by Toba, who came in like a madman. He came in to that hairpin at some incredible speed, at some incredible kind of positioning on the track, and he just T-boned poor Darryn Binder, and he was out of the race. So 2 races in a row that Binder has been taken out of some points that really wasn't his fault. So yeah, really kind of unfortunate for Darryn Binder. He did finish the race, so like I said, 22nd position, 1 minute 17 seconds behind after his crash. But yeah, disappointing time for Darryn Binder. Toba as well, he got away, no penalty for taking Darryn Binder out of the race, which was all a little bit interesting, because I think maybe a couple of second penalty or something like that would have been more suitable, because that was quite a dangerous move, really, what he did. Yeah, okay, he went on the wet stuff and got it wrong, but to really aggressively knock a rider off again, this is more going into MotoGP as well. He got penalised, the man who did it. You would have maybe seen our video that we uploaded a few days ago on that topic. But Márquez got penalised for doing it, so I think maybe Toba should have, but you know, I'm not race direction. They see all the angles. They speak to the riders. They know exactly what is going on. They obviously spoke to Kaito and Yurchenko after practice, and Kaito said that he got hit by Yurchenko, which I think was a little bit of a lie, but he got away with it that way. So talking of Kaito, he was able to then catch DJ Antonio after, unfortunately, Mr. Messiah clipped the back of DG. And DG was then not able to catch Kaito once Kaito passed the Italian. So the podium was actually quite an interesting one. Marco Bezzecchi, after being taken out in Qatar, finishing in about 14th position after getting taken out on the last lap, he won the Grand Prix by 4.6 seconds ahead of Aaron Kaito on the Estrella Galizia. And then DJ Antonio rounding out the top 3 with Bastianini. Obviously, he crashed as well in Qatar. He managed to grab himself a very impressive 4th position with Adam Norridin in 5th place. Lopez, the youngest rider on the grid, as I said, Aaron Cannett's teammate, getting himself an incredible 6th position, 10 points on the board for him. He finished ahead of podium man last time out in Qatar, Dalla Porta. He finished in 7th place. Antonelli, the pole man in Qatar, was in 8th position. Gabriel Rodrigo, the home man, 9th position. Good result for him. More points on the board. Yeah, he would have wanted to be up the front, but conditions was very, very tricky to get around the circuit, really. And he finished ahead of the pole man for this weekend and the slick runner right from the start, Tony Arbolino, on the dry tyres. Grabbed himself a P10, but he was only 1.1 seconds ahead of Martin, who started a lap down. So just think, if Martin had started the race from his grid slot on dry tyres, where would Jorge Martin have been? He finished the race in 11th ahead of Ramirez, who also, I believe, was on the dry tyres. Mino in 13th place. Jakub Kornfeil on that Redox Prustel GP KTM in 14th. Olivier Loy rounding out the points on his Reale Avinti Academy bike. He finished 15th. With a time of 26 seconds behind the race leader, so that would have put him about 42 minutes total race time. The guys who didn't get a point: Sasaki, McPhee, Atarat Puvapat, Kaito Toba after his incident with Binder, Mizaki, Suzuki, Binder, who obviously crashed out as well as Suzuki, Oertel, and then Makar Yurchenko, as I said, got a lap down. And then just to reiterate, the guys who DNF'd in that race, who didn't classify: Messiah, 2 laps ago, ran into the back of DJ Antonio and flipped over and tipped over his best to Capital Dubai out of a possible podium position. Dennis Foggia, really good ride for him despite the crash. Really should be happy with himself. Never seen this track before, and to be fighting inside the top 10 or maybe even top 6, that was a really good ride for Dennis. I think it was 6th position when he tipped off, but really good ride for Foggia. Albert Arenas back with the collarbone injury that he done in Qatar. Obviously missed the Qatar race because of that. He did in warm-up. He finished 4 laps down after his crash. he crashed out with 4 laps to go. And then Bulega retired 5 laps to go, of the Grand Prix as well. So, yeah, there we go. First KTM win of the season. And if I'm not mistaken, it must be the first KTM win in a long time, because Honda won the final race in Valencia last time out with Martin. Not last time out, at the end of the last season. So yeah, it must be a very long time since KTM last won a Moto3 race. Let's take a look. Sepang. Who won Sepang? Mir. Honda. Who won Phillip Island? Mir. Honda. Who won Motegi? Fanati. Honda. So, you know, you're just going through. There is Honda everywhere. Honda at Silverstone. Mazzano was a Honda. It was Fanati. Red Bull Ring, I believe, was Honda as well. Yeah, Mir. Ertl was second on the KTM. So we're going a long way to look at the last KTM win. And yeah, really good news for Bezzecchi. But bad news for Red Bull KTM, because they're there as the factory KTM team, as you would say. The last win, here we go, the last win, I can't remember, I didn't remember this on the top of my head. My last win for KTM was round 6 in 2016 at Mugello when Andrea Migno won on the KTM. So that long ago, that was June 2017-04. So June the 4th, 2017. So that's nearly a year ago. It's about 10 months ago, I believe. So, yeah, that's a little bit interesting, really. The KTM has not won for nearly a year in Moto3. But Marco Bezzecchi, what I was about to say is you have the factory team getting done over by satellite teams. Bezzecchi is technically a satellite rider. So, yeah, it's really, really good to see Bezzecchi at the front doing much better than the factory Red Bull KTM bike. And obviously KTM now would hopefully be looking and going, right, okay, let's put a little bit more back in this team because they can do it. And that is really, really interesting, really, just to see Bezzecchi doing what he did today. Well, on tricky conditions as well, which just adds another level of impressment to it. So that was the story of Moto3. If you have any comments or questions about anything on Moto3, leave them down in the comments section below. We will be answering your feedback from the MotoGP video that we uploaded a few days ago on the Marquez and Rossi clash. We'll be reacting and reading those out at the end of the video once Jamie is here. So now we're going to look onto Moto2. So let's take a look at what happened throughout the weekend in Moto2. So now we're going to look into Moto2, and well, the story of Saturday was the really strange grids that we have throughout the weekend. We have Moto3, Bezzecchi in the middle of the front row, Arbolino on pole position, two names that you wouldn't really expect to be on pole or on the front row, and another name that if you said this guy's going to be on pole position going into this weekend, you would have think, I don't know. Vierge, pole position on the Dynavolt Intact GP, the second race that he's had on that bike. Obviously, the Calyx frame on the Dynavolt compared to the Tech 3 Mistral on the Tech 3 Mistral. So, yeah, really, really, really good Saturday for Vierge, and we'll talk about his Sunday in a moment. But pole position, and just when you think the track, you set the time and we thought, okay, I think the track's improved. Because everyone was saying, no, that's it. Baldassarri's got pole position. Nobody will improve. Then Vierge puts in a time. Kent puts in a time. Massini, Navarro. Fanati puts in a time, even though he was down the order a little bit. But he sat out most of the session. And everyone was saying, what is he doing? The track is nowhere near going to be good enough for him. And he managed to put in the time. But Xavi Vierge, pole position for the Argentine Grand Prix, ahead of Lorenzo Baldassarri, who finished second last time out. He starts second this time out. And he's ahead of the MB Conveyors Speed Up Racing bike of Danny Kent, who managed to put it on the front row. But again, Sunday, big issue for him. Not sure what happened to him, but we'll talk about that in a little while. I think conditions was just really tricky because that was a tricky race, the Moto2 race, because the line, the kind of half the track was dry, but half of it was quite slippy as well with the wet. So, yeah, it was really interesting, but The second row, Bassini, Navarro and Sam Lowes, who was on the front row for the last, well, until about the last 5 minutes when Sam got pushed off the front row and down onto the second row. Miguel Oliveira, the first Red Bull KTM. He's the second KTM because obviously Sam is on the KTM. He's ahead of Alex Marquez. Remy Gardner, who put in an absolute sensational practice 3, ahead of Joe Roberts and Dominic Agaton. Now, if the race was fully wet, you have these interesting, right? You have Vierge, Kent, you have Navarro, you have Gardner, Roberts, Marini, Odendahl. You have Mir, who was doing well in the wet as well, even though he went down to 16th, 17th, but he got caught out by the conditions, I think, as well. So, yeah, that was really, really good to see loads of riders kind of up there in the wet, but they also seem to have the pace in the dry, in the mixed conditions. So, yeah, really interesting. Agato was 11th, Marini 12th, Vinales was 13th, Odendahl 14th, Bagnaia, the championship leader, down in 15th place ahead of Brad Binder, Joan Mir in 17th, Barber in 18th, Fanati down in 19th position, and Marcel Schrotter rounding out the top 20. Then we have the second Swiss Innovative Investors KTM of Ikel Koiner down 23rd. Don't get that, he was going really, really well in the wet and quite well in the dry. Mixed conditions, don't know if he got caught out again with the weather and the tracks kind of evolvement. He got caught out with that. Don't know. 23rd position for him ahead of Eric Granado on the leading forward racing bike, I believe, because I do not see Manzi. Oh, there he is. Last. 5 seconds behind the rider in front of him. Oh, right. So, yeah, where was we? Vinales in 25th, Odendahl in 26th, Bo Ben-Snyder in 27th, Locatelli in 28th, Federico Fellini on the Tasca racing bike in 29th, ahead of Safar Mikaridin, Jules Danilo in 31st, and Stefano Manzi rounding out the field, like I said, 4.8 seconds behind Jules Danilo. Jules Danilo in 31st did a 2 minutes 0.1. Manzi did a 2 minute 5.0. Going into the race, obviously, slick tyres, I think, all round for everybody because it was pretty much dry once the race came, but it was, like I said, a bit slippy in various places. A bit like MotoGP qualifying. It was dry up until that turn 8-9 section where Miller had a few moments on his sensational lap. It was interesting for that reason, and it was drying up throughout the race, but it was going to create a good race. And drama kind of started already very early on because Navarro, who started in like P5, he dropped right the way down to Binder, who started in about P17, and Binder ran into the back of Jorge Navarro. Binder unfortunately crashed out. Navarro's exhaust was bent and hanging off, so scraping on the floor. So unfortunately for Brad Binder and Navarro, their races was over because Navarro had a broke bike and then Binder was in the gravel. So yeah, really, really unfortunate because Binder looked like he had great pace in the dry, good pace in the mixed conditions as well. If it was fully mixed and fully dry or fully wet, Binder looked like he had some good pace, and unfortunately he wasn't able to back that up in the race after the early crash that he had. But it was actually quite an interesting and quite an exciting Moto2 race because we had a fight for the lead. We had 3 riders, 4 riders if you include Marquez, who then made a bit of a mistake and went wide, but they were all fighting for the lead. I think at one point there must have been 5 riders all fighting for the win. Passini, Vierge, Oliveira, Baldassari and Marquez, and that is the order that they finished in because in the end Passini got to the front on the last couple of laps and broke away. Vierge tried everything he had on the final lap and nearly even lost it at the final corner. In fact, Vierge nearly lost it. God knows how many times. He lost the front 3 times going into turn 1 and still made the apex. So not quite sure how he managed that, but Xavi Vierge managed to grab himself a P2, 20 points on the board, but I think he would have liked the win. I think he was going for the win, but Matteo Passini, maybe his experience, because he's quite an older rider, he's been on the Moto2 bike for quite a long time. I think he might have just sussed it out a little bit more than Vierge, and he just planned it a bit better. But Vierge, P2 behind Matteo Passini, his first win of the season for Passini. Oliveira getting on the podium for Red Bull KTM. So overall, it wasn't a bad day for KTM. Getting himself a P3 ahead of Lorenzo Baldassari, who, if I'm not mistaken, now leads the World Championship in Moto2. We'll go through the championship at the end of this little stint of the video before we get Jamie. We'll go through the Moto3 and Moto2 Championship. But Baldassarri, 4th place for him. Good ride for him, I think, for saying the conditions. P4, he's shown that consistency, which is good, and he's also took big points out of Bagnaia. If, like I said, if not, I think he is leading the championship, and he's also extended his points gap over Marquez because he got 2 points more than Marquez. You know, he was in 4th position, whereas Marquez was in 5th position. Remy Gardner on the Tech 3 bike, incredible weekend for him. He, like I said in qualifying report, he shone through practice. And he shone in the race as well. 6th position on the Tech 3. Great ride for Remy Gardner. Really, really pleased. And also another man who I'm really pleased about is Joan Mir. He finished the race in 7th place. 9 points on the board for him. So he's had 2 great races as Joan Mir. 2 good point scoring finishes. And that's not really much more you can ask for, really. There is nothing more you can ask for from a rider than just keep showing that consistent improvements, and that is what Joan Mir is doing on that Mark VDS Estrella Galizia 00 Kalex even. KTM was underneath him, and that's Kiefer Racing's Dominique Agata, the sole Kiefer Racing bike, on that really strange looking yellow and red thing. He was 8th position, ahead of Francesco Bagnaia, what was championship leader, the winner of the opening round of the season, down in 9th position. Just didn't click for Bagnaia in these tricky conditions. Neither did it click for his teammate either. So, yeah, the Sky bikes just suffering a little bit in the mixed conditions, but unfortunately for Bagnaia, wasn't able to get anywhere near the front. P9, he managed to get 7 points on the board, which, you know, is good. If you can't go for the win, just go for the points. And that's what he did today. Marcel Schrotter in 10th place. Good finish for him. He's been kind of nowhere all weekend, and to get inside the top 10 is a good result for the German on that Dynamo Intact GP Kalex. Obviously his teammate on the podium, so he'll be a little bit disheartened about that. Then a really great ride from Ika Lecuona. I told you, he was quick in the dry, he's quick in the wet, and he was quick in the mixed conditions. So I don't know what was going on with qualifying. And he managed to get himself a P11 on that Swiss innovative KTM. And good ride from him. Really, really impressed. I think that might be his first points in Moto2 ever, because I don't think he got any points last year. So that might be Ika Lecuona's first ever point scoring finish in Moto2. 5 points on the boards for him. He's ahead of Danny Kent, who started the race on the front row, and Danny Kent was ahead of Sam Lowes, who started on the second row. So both of the Brits struggling in tricky conditions. Danny, obviously, like I said, started 3rd, finished 12th. Sam started 6th, finished 13th. Not sure if maybe there was a tyre choice that maybe went wrong with. I don't know if he went for a slightly harder tyre, because I know Sam did hard tyre runs in practice and he was quick, so soft tyre he was looking good. But I honestly just don't know. But Danny Kent and Sam Lowes, they just showed that they had some good pace. They showed they had pace for a top 6. And then all of a sudden they're down outside the top 10, scoring 4 and 3 points and just finishing ahead of Isaac Vinales on the SAG team. So, yeah, not sure what was going on there for them two riders, but they finished the race. They got points. That's more important. Sam's first points of the season, just 3 of them, but it's still points. And he should be, you know, fairly pleased with that. It was easy to make a mistake in today's race. And he managed to hang on for 3 points. Like I said, he's at Vinales in 14th. And then also another rider who I think might be his first point scoring finish in Moto2 is the second Italtrans racing team bike of Locatelli. So, you know, be quite pleased for Italtrans. A win and then their second rider getting their first point in Moto2 in what was tricky conditions, as I keep saying. Really, really good stuff for Locatelli. 15th position. He finished ahead of some experienced names as well. Marini being one of them. Stephen Odendal, who's been around in the Moto2 kind of scene, whether it be in the actual Grand Prix paddock or the CV, for quite a while. Between them, there's Nagashima, who's not got much experience. Fanati, not got much experience in Moto2. Barbara, a lot of motorbike experience, but none in Moto2. 20th position for him. Stefano Manzi fought his way up from being 4.8 seconds off in qualifying. He managed to finish the race 53 seconds behind the leader, 2/10 behind Hector Barbara, and he finished in 21st position ahead of the second speed up of Quartararo. Corsi was down in 23rd place on that Tasca Racing Scuderia Moto2. Caroline Ampawi in 24th. Joe Roberts down in 25th position, so obviously, you know, just didn't work for Joe in the mixed conditions. Cairo Din in 26th, Fellini in 27th, Benzina in 28th, 29th place was Eric Granado. And the guys who didn't finish the race was Jules Danilo on the first lap. I believe he crashed out. Brad Binder, like I said, crashed out as well, taking Jorge Navarro's exhaust kind of out of place, and he got forced to retire 2 laps later from the race. The fastest lap of the race went to Xavi Vierge on lap 21. That was the penultimate lap of the race, and he set a time of 1 minute 44.3. The circuit record is 43.0, so 1.3 seconds slower the track was in today's condition. So overall, you can be pretty pleased if your name is Xavi Vierge. Pole position, fastest lap, and a podium. That's really, really good stuff for him. Now, I know that wasn't really more of a, let's talk about the riders and all that, but I just kind of feel like we need to get a move on, because we don't want this video to be too long, and it's already about 35 minutes long, so I just kind of wanted to power through it a little bit. So yeah, we're going to take a look now at the championship standings. Moto 3, it is obviously Aaron Canet who is on top, 40 points for him. Jorge Martin has just 30 after picking up the 5 points in today's race. Marco Bezzecchi, after just picking up 2 points in Qatar, 25 today, 27 points on the board for him. He's in third. Fabio Di Gianantonio is in 4th position, just 1 point behind Bezzecchi, and 1 point behind him is Lorenzo Dalla Porto, who got 3rd position in Qatar. Then it's Antonelli in 6th. Rodrigo in 7th, Norridin in 8th, Bastianini down in 9th position after his DNF in Qatar and 13 points today. Lopez in 10th after his incredible ride today, getting inside the top 10 in his second ever Moto3 race in the championship. That is good going for Alonso Lopez. Kaito Toba in 11th, Kornfeil down in 12th position, Mino down in 13th. I would have expected maybe a little bit more from him. Jakub Kornfeil in 12th, Ayumu Sasaki in 14th, Tony Arbolino 15th. Not sure what's going on with Arbolino. We said it at the end of the Moto3 part last time, but Arbolino, he was really, really good last year on that, Marco Simoncelli bike, the 658 bike, and this year it's not worked for him, which is really, really just such a shame, really, for him. But that's the way, it goes. And another rider who has just been kind of nowhere, really, 5 points. Marcos Ramirez, last year on that Platinum Bay Real Estate, he was fighting for podiums, he got podiums, he was fighting for wins. 16th in the championship, 5 points. Not really what I would have expected, to be honest. Juan Masaya in 17th, Katsuki Mizaki in 18th, Livio Lloyd down in 19th position. He's the last guy to score points. And the guys who don't have points yet, Dennis Foggia was on for about 11 or 12 points today. Unfortunately, crashed out, like I said. John McPhee in 21st, Nakarin Atarat Pupapat in 22nd, Mako Yuchenko 23rd, Tatsuki Suzuki in 24th, Darren Bin 25th, and rounding out the championship is Philip Ertel, which is a real shame for me, because Ertel last year and the year before, he was really fighting at the front. He was fighting at the front for a little bit, then he did drop away, but even so, he was still there at the front, but it's just not worked for him this year, as of yet. And I don't know what to say, really. But looking into Moto 2, I was wrong. It's actually Matteo Pessini who leads the championship after his win today. 13 points on the board for him and 25 points on the board in Argentina. So he's got 38 points overall after his 2 races. He's ahead of Lorenzo Baldassari and Francesco Bagnaia, who are 33 and 32 points for them. Xavi Vierge jumps up into 4th position after getting 8 points in Qatar and 20 points in Argentina. Miguel Oliveira sits in 5th position ahead of Alex Marquez, Marcel Schrotter, Remy Gardner. Joan Mir in 9th position ahead of multiple podium at the end of the last season. Brad Binder down in 10th place ahead of Dominic Agate, Luca Marini, Jorge Navarro in 13th. Iker Lecuona, a really good start of the season, like I said, for him. Obviously, the mechanical in Qatar, but 5 points today. He's in 14th ahead of Danny Kent, Hector Barbara, Sam Lowe's, Isaac Vinales, Simone Corsi, Locatelli rounding out the top 20, and the last guy to score a point. Then we have Nagashima, Onadal, Benzana, Fanati, Quattararo, Mazzandi, Powie, and Joe Roberts rounding off the list there in P28. So that was the story of Moto 3 and Moto 2. Really, really good racing we had. Few interesting decisions from race direction in my eyes, especially with Canet and Toba throughout the Moto 3. Moto 2 was quite clean, actually. I think it was the only clean race we had. And yeah, really, really good stuff from Moto 3 and Moto 2. Right, now it's time to bring Jamie back, and it's time to go through MotoGP. Get ready for about half an hour to a 45-minute of just ranting and raging about one man and one man only. So let's go to MotoGP. Jamie, let's do this. Okay, so that was the story of Moto 3 and Moto 2, and like I said at the end of that little stint, we're going to get Jamie. It's now a few days later. We've finally managed to get Jamie. It's been quite difficult to get you, but we finally got him, and we're here today for the MotoGP part of the Let's Talk, and well, I don't really know where to start. It kicked off before the race even begun, so yeah.
The whole weekend was interesting, but I suppose we'll start off with the actual, kerfuffle.
Yeah,
it was the start of that race.
So
the race hadn't even started.
I'll let you explain. You can.
Oh, you're gonna let me try and explain that, Vance?
Yeah.
Well,
exactly, because I don't really know what to say.
I was confused at the time. I remember watching it because obviously when they all got to pit the grid, they all wanted to go to dries. I'm guessing all the field were on wets apart from Miller because he's savage.
Yeah. And
obviously done that qualifying lap on those slicks.
On the slicks. Yeah.
What might have been a similar track maybe to what they was about to race on, and then everyone went in the pit lane obviously, and then what everyone would have expected I suppose was I can't remember what year it was, 2015 maybe. I don't know when they done that the start. I think it was in Sachsenring when it was all in the pit lane. Everyone probably thought that was going to happen again, but everyone got put back onto the grid. And apparently, I don't know, was it Tosland or which commentators was it? One of the commentators said that's a new rule. And I don't know.
Edwards or Tosland, I think.
I don't know if that's been a new rule since that thing in Sachsenring happened, because we haven't had like a situation like that happen.
Yeah, I think it was because
they've never been able to put this stupid rule in because they've not happened. And then obviously when it happened in Argentina, that they all was doing it for the first time and was all a bit confused because I've never heard that stupidness before. Because again, it's never happened, so we wouldn't have got such stupid news.
Yeah, and from Michael Laverty, he put on Twitter, because obviously he was in that race at the Sachsenring when everything went a bit strange with the start, let's say, and he led. He said then that there was a new rule introduced after that if you get taken off the grid at the start before the race begins, you have to go out on the warm-up lap and start from the back of the grid. But because everybody got pushed off, they all had to start at the back of the grid. So then we ended up having Miller on pole and then a 50-metre gap or whatever. 3 rows of just emptiness and then everybody in the back. It's just a bit stupid, really.
I think what would have been better to keep it the same as the original rule, that when they're in pit lane, but maybe have the 1x1. Or 2x2, or something like that. Something that's safe, but still kind of in the original rule where you're in the pit lane. Because if you make the right choice, you should get a benefit. Obviously, if it was the original rule, Miller would have been leading by 20 seconds. I think they said 25, something like that.
Yeah,
and he would have definitely have not got caught up. Yeah. Well, Márquez might have done it. You never know. But he wouldn't have been caught up by the rest of the field, and he would have obviously won the race unless he had fallen off or something. And instead, he got...
Miller was robbed.
2 rows? 2 rows? 3 rows? I don't know what it was. 50 metres.
That he had 50 metres.
And like the commentators were saying and everything, obviously I don't know what the commentators were saying on other channels, but on BT, they were just saying, this is embarrassment. They feel embarrassed to be commentating over this. And you just see Miller P1 and then you got emptiness, and then you got all the riders at the back. And it was a bit, I don't know, it just looked stupid to start with. I mean, it's just...
And it was embarrassing right from the start, because like I touched on in the Moto 3 part with Canet and Yurchenko, Race Direction made a bit of a dodgy call to not give a penalty, and then this happened on the grid, and then the race happened that we'll move on into a bit. It was very inconsistent from Race Direction. They were throwing new rules left, right and centre, making stuff up. And... It was a bit embarrassing just for MotoGP in general. I mean, even WTF1 put it on their Facebook page saying the most farcical start ever in racing history, and I was like, oh god.
I mean,
this is our sport. That's just
it was a bit dumb. I mean, just looking at it, imagine if you'd gone on the TV late, you probably thought they'll be in the race by now. Let's just see what's cracking. You turn the TV on, you see Miller P1, and then no one behind him. Then no one in the next row, and then the whole grid all the way back there, just chilling. And I'm like, well, what's going on here then? Why are they all back there? But yeah, I think that's a kind of a rough explanation of the whole start procedure. Obviously, I guess this will be
to reiterate
more
and round it up. Because some people might not, be able to understand our long-winded rants that we're going to have today. To round it up, Miller was on the slicks, everybody was on the wets, it dried up, they all took off the grid to put the slicks on, start got delayed by 15 minutes, Miller was the only one on the grid, he got given a 50-metre advantage because he made the right call, everybody started from row 4 onwards, and the race got underway. After
I think that this rule, they will probably look at it again and maybe try and adapt it or make it more... More logical.
Because that really just there was just no sense of it. You're just looking at the TV like, what is this?
I think even
those
of
it,
those
and the video of it
officials...
probably just down below, so you can see obviously what we're talking about. But it just looked stupid.
Yeah, those officials, they didn't even know what was going on either. They were picking up numbers, putting them down, looking around like, what are we doing?
Oh dear.
But yeah, that was basically the whole beginning before the race even started.
It didn't stop there, did it? Before the race started, it didn't stop there.
I mean, well, yeah. Even so, I mean, after the warm-up lap, they got to the grid, and then Marc Márquez stalled the bike or something, and then he had to jump-start it, which was lucky for him to actually even get it jump-started.
Yeah, it was very lucky.
Then he would have definitely been in pit lane, and well, events could have been way different in the race, but obviously... He got it started, and then you saw was it an Earth official or Dawn official, one of each or something like that. They both came out.
Tony, the big guy Tony, he went off and told Márquez you got to go into pit lane. And Márquez was like, no, yeah. Danny Aldridge running kind of back to pit lane, kind of pointing like, kind of telling Mark come this way. Márquez ignored him, turned around, rode back up the pit straight, going the wrong way, turned around, reversed, and he see Crutchlow and Vinales just waving the hands around like, what is this?
Yeah, Jakub Mir also turned around, had his arms up like, what's cracking here? How much longer does it take for me to get going?
It was jokes.
I mean, that whole procedure. I mean, he went backwards, then he kind of got off the bike, rolled it back a little bit, got in his slot, adjusted himself, got comfy, and was like, right, yeah, we can go now. I'm ready, so we can all go. But yeah, that was a lots of crazy events for the race even started.
And again, just like I said a minute ago, it didn't stop there. We got the race underway, and obviously, as you would expect, Jack Miller got the whole shot. Surprise. And obviously, Márquez fought his way up to second, got the lead, and then kind of started pulling away. Then it all come out. He got a ride-through penalty because of his actions at the start, and then the game's begun, basically.
Came into pit lane, which really looked like an eternity just on like TV, because I know that pit lane's quite long.
27 seconds.
It looked like he was in there for an eternity. Also, then Joan Mir got the lead again. Everyone adjusted himself, and I can't remember when Márquez came out. Was it like
came out 19th
points for sure?
Behind, just ahead of Bautista and Lorenzo.
Obviously, Lorenzo. No one knows what was going on with him at the start of the race.
I don't think Lorenzo knows what was going on with him. He was 5 seconds off the pace, of what Miller and that was doing, and then add another second on for Márquez.
He was doing that every lap, which would have made him fall so far behind all the midfield, and then suddenly he'd like overtook them all. It was kind of like, I think it must have just been. It must just been the mixed conditions. When there's like a damp track, he really just struggles. But when it dried up at the end, he was like, okay, I can find my rhythm a bit more now. Whereas, like you said to me, if it was full wet, he's confident. If it was dried, not so much. Mixed, no way. So that was all
I don't know if that maybe played into something with Lorenzo, but yeah.
And obviously after that little situation, obviously Márquez came out of the pit lane. He obviously had to fight his way through the field. He was picking them off like flies. It looked almost easy. Kind of looked like he was playing a MotoGP game on easy, and he just came from the back the way he was going. I don't know how. Even on simulation, I don't know how he was lapping that much quicker than anyone. I don't know what he was doing differently, because everyone was pretty much taking the same line, the only dry line there was. So I don't know. I guess he just had the bike set up perfectly for this track or something. I don't know. But he fought through quite rapid. Overtook people left, right, centre. Some pretty interesting moves. Obviously, before all that kerfuffle, or might be, was it after? I don't even know. Obviously, Danny Pedrosa got wiped out.
We forgot about that. Forgot about poor Danny on the first lap.
Johann Zarco into the penultimate corner, which looked like it was a risky place to do overtakes, but Márquez kind of overtook most of the competition there.
I mean, like you said to me, look in the past. look in the past. You don't overtake in a penultimate corner. You never come out of it.
It never ends well. But yeah, Danny got put onto the wet start, flew off his bike, and obviously he's fractured his wrist. He's had his operations and all that, malar surgery or whatever. So he might be back for Austin. He might not. We don't know, but that
and if
looked
like it looks like
the corner that Marquez had decided to make his overtake on most of the field. Because I mean, lots of other people that were overtaking turn 4, which is obviously the hairpin after the straight. It was completely dry, or mostly dry at least. People were doing moves there and then running off wide and then doing the undercut. You saw it a lot of times with Rins and Jack Miller later on in the race and stuff like that.
And then into turn 6 or 5 or whatever the left-hander is, when he just stuffed it up inside there, you can get the drive out. But Mark, he wants that. He wants that it was the dry line and then wet either side. Thing. And obviously, everyone was taking the racing line, and to go up the inside of someone, you have to take a tighter line. So therefore, he was in the wet, which didn't kind of work out at all.
Didn't go too well. Obviously, the first couple he ever took was quite nice, clean, simple move. But then obviously he got to Alicia Spargaro, and this move I remember when they put on. I didn't really know what he was trying to do. Because obviously he might have been playing a lot of MotoGP games when you can actually ride through bodies, but in real life you can't do that. And it looked like he tried to. I don't know really. I mean, I don't know.
It didn't look like he was trying to make a move. It just
I
looked
don't know
like
if he locked up the front tyre or if Alicia was just going that slow compared to him.
I think it was that.
What?
I honestly think it was the fact that Marquez had that much of an advantage over everybody. He got caught out a bit like Critchlow did when he had to go around the outside of Zarco, but obviously didn't work because wet patch and all that. I think he was just a little bit, well, I say Mark a little bit. He was significantly quicker than everybody else. I think he got caught out and he shat himself and went into the back of Relais and pushed him off the track.
I mean, well, it wasn't even the back. I mean, there was the back, it was the side, it was the front. It was also... He just kind of trying to squeeze himself through there.
As Neil Hodgson said, he rode through Alicia's Spargaro.
Obviously, then Alicia kind of got launched off into the gravel and grass and all that. I don't know if the Petrucci contact was before or after that one. Cause I don't even know where Petrucci was in the entire race. The GP18s, which
I guess it
Dobby,
was...
they were just suffering, but...
I would have thought
probably I would have assumed it probably at the start, but you got a big bang from Petrucci. Obviously, they're having their battles on Twitter. If you've not seen, you got Alicia versus Pramac. It's all a bit interesting, all this drama. And then obviously you got that one by Marquez, which, I mean, the Petrucci one might have been harder, but he stayed on the bike, it was all fine, he didn't lose lots of time. Obviously when Marquez came, he got launched off, and then, I mean,
that whole situation with Pramac and Aleix, their little battle on Twitter, Pramac arguing the fact that Sayarin went up the inside of Petrucci and pushed him into Aleix. Obviously, there's been no footage of that emerging, I've not seen any anywhere, but I'll keep digging it out, and if I can find anything, obviously you will see it in the box. But that's what they're saying, and obviously you would have probably... Well, they have the onboard footage, I guess. So they would have maybe seen what happened. But yeah, that's the whole situation with that. Whether or not it's true, we don't know, because like I said, I'm not seeing it. But Alicia's not happy because that Twitter war, people are comparing... You know, they're saying, oh, you've done worse in the past. You know, you took Dovi out last year. But... You know, that was a mistake Aleix forced upon himself. He crashed by himself. It was just unfortunate that Dovi had ran wide and he was there.
I mean, that stuff happens a lot of times, you know. You
exactly,
saw Danny take out Dovi.
I mean, the Marquez Rossi incident that we'll get onto later, the same thing happened, you know, with Rossi and Stoner in 2011 at Jerez. He went up the inside of him and just lost the front. That's racing. But to physically ride into and push another rider off the track or knock them off the bike is not racing, and that's what people don't understand in these group chats and stuff.
I know. I mean, you go through these group chats on Facebook, like the main... I don't even know which one keeps popping up, but it's always the same guy, which I'm not going to name, but you probably know who I'm talking about. Yeah, he's posting the same stupid photos. And you just look at the photos, like, well, if we look at them 3 first photos, Marcus has done exactly that. Like, replicas of them. Like, exactly them. And,
it's ever since, Sepang 2015 when Rossi kicked in the air quotation marks Marquez off. Everybody's gone like, right, Rossi's the bad guy. And whenever anything happens now, if Rossi, that move he did on Pedrosa and Aragon last year, this
can't even remember that move. I saw a lot of people talk about that move, and I was trying to think.
I don't see what's wrong.
Remember.
You know, Aragon, the racing line is you come out of that little chicane thing onto the straight and you go to the left and then you come back to the right. It's like Qatar when you go to the right hand side, right to the pit wall and then back over to the left. They do that in Aragon. Rossi got a good drive out the corner and was alongside Pedrosa. Pedrosa started going to the racing line and Rossi had to kind of move over and he squeezed his way past on the white line. Yeah, all right, it was a bit close, but that was racing. You know,
because I was trying to think of that. I saw the talk about that, and I was trying to think like, what are they on about? I can't remember.
But deliberately riding into another rider, and that's not the first time he did it. You know, Marquez nearly took Pedrosa and Dovizioso out on Friday. He nearly took Rossi out on Saturday.
Maverick on Friday, I think, when he went into a corner braking way later than anyone. Well, I don't even know if that was intentional or not, but I mean,
I think it was Dovi as well. I think it was Dovi.
Like a boss.
A gap. Maverick and Marquez obviously went in like a madman and released the brake and accelerated into that gap and nearly knocked the pair of them out. So
imagine if you had hit one of them, then that could have been, quite big. That speed while that just
that's
sat
a
out
quick
their
corner.
own business.
I mean, you saw what happened to Toba and Binder in Moto 3. That could
have been nasty.
You know, and they're in Moto 3 bikes, they're a lot slower. And lighter, so just imagine if that had made contact. So obviously Marquez was already kind of on the radar after as well in Qatar. He hit Zarco's knee and the bike was all over the place. I think he's had 10 or 12, maybe more collisions with another rider in this season so far, according to MotoGP's commentators. So
he's 2 races.
He's
got like so many left. Who knows?
It's definitely don't know really. Just
he's making it.
It's a new Marquez. Like he has released.
I mean, it's not a new Marquez. It's kind of like the old one, just kind of come back again.
That's what I was trying to say, but I just can't English. It's like he's released this Marquez again that he was there in Moto 2 when he took Pol out and ran into the back of Wheeler out and knocked Corsi off, and now he's released it again and the red mist is there. He's just I don't know, but
I mean, yeah. Obviously,
the LH thing could have been avoided. I was watching the race back today. He had 3 opportunities to pass him before that penultimate corner, but didn't. And well, we all know the outcome.
Goodbye, Elish. Go into the grass. Obviously, for that you got a you have to go back
a position,
which he done, but then he just kind of barged his way through the riders again.
Yeah.
What was it? Morbidelli, one of them. It was one of them.
Morbidelli was ahead of him, so he had to let Luti pass him. Then passed Morbidelli at turn 1, and then just sat up on the racing line. You see him just sit up and put his hand up. That's another thing that was slightly dangerous. He could have just, okay, I realise now I need to let Morbidelli and Luti pass. Come out of turn 1, move over, then let him pass. But he just sat up on the line, on the apex. Morbidelli kind of had to sit up to kind of go round him, and. He was on another, like you say, he was playing the video game. He was playing the video game.
He was playing the video game. Obviously, he had to give back that position. It didn't. I mean, yeah, he overtook him pretty much on the same lap. I think he gave it back and then just overtook it straight away. And then he made his way through the field again. Obviously, I think at all this kind of like moment of the Grand Prix where Marquez was overtaking everyone, I don't think there was a lot of action at the front. It was just kind of they was all following each other a little bit. Obviously, you had the 4 riders that broke away: Miller, Rins, Crutchlow, and Zarco. Obviously, they're all there. Kind of more exciting part of the Grand Prix was at the end.
Yeah.
More towards the end, at least. In the middle of the Grand Prix, it was just so let's just watch Marquez and let's see if he's going to push anyone else off or what he's going to do.
What was happening as well, there was a little bit...
He's sat Nakagami up, he's done all sorts of ants.
There was a little bit of action going on with Rossi, Viñales, Dovi and Iannone. They were kind of switching positions a bit before then. Both of the Yamahas getting past Dovizioso, and then it was time for Marquez attack again. He dropped that position, fought his way back up, like Jamie was briefly on about, as I was talking over him, so I might just cut my little bit out there so you can hear him. Nakagami, he sat Nakagami up, which was a little bit like the Pedrosa incident, kind of sitting him up. Nakagami did, I don't know if you saw in the slow-mo, he did get a bit of a wiggle on. He could have resulted in a bit of a Pedrosa thing, but luckily maybe for Nakagami it dried up a little bit throughout that race. But it could have been a pretty bad ending for Naka, but luckily it wasn't. He managed to barge his way through, and then he caught up to Valentino Rossi, and well, we all know what happened there.
It was I don't know. I mean, there was like a gap, but there was a gap, but I don't know. I think he was too far back. I think because obviously he had like a second or something like stupid like that, faster a lap than anyone. He could have just sat behind him for that little section, overtake him turn 1, turn 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn
exactly.
4,
He didn't have to
6,
rush through at all.
And then on that one, he just kind of just rode into him. And then obviously, I don't think Rossi would have crashed, but then Marquez sat up, but forced Rossi into the wet grass and just tipped over. Because I think if that hadn't happened, I think Rossi would have been on fine. Obviously, but he would probably still been unhappy about the move. But I think he would have actually stayed on the bike because it looked like he could have got back onto the actual track like Marquez did. But obviously, when Marquez sat up, Rossi just kind of just chucked into the grass, and obviously wet grass, dry tires, and all that. It's a bit not good.
It don't work, does it?
So
whilst Rossi was getting back on, obviously now it was like, oh, what penalty is Marquez going to get? And the action kind of went, like Jamie said, at the end, it went to the front. We had Rins fighting for the lead. He led his first ever MotoGP race as well. Pulled off some incredible moves on Jack Miller. That turn 6 one that I was briefly on about, he went up inside of Miller, ran wide. Miller switched back to him and he just stuffed it up inside of that left, smoking the rear tyre. And it was pretty impressive, to be honest, from young Rins in his second season, Keith Ewan, not third, on the Suzuki. And, well, he showed that he can fight. I briefly mentioned it in the Rins video we uploaded last time, that this year, the Suzuki's got the concessions. He's shown he has the pace. He showed he had the pace in Qatar before he fell off. And this year he showed he has a fight, and he shows that he has a determination to do it as well. So, first of many podiums for Rins. And will he get a win this year? I mean,
that would be good. And I think even if they get loads of podiums and no concessions get took away, I think their bike's going to be fine. Because obviously last year it looked fine.
Definitely.
I mean, the concessions, it doesn't mean they're going to make a better bike. It just means they have more development to kind of make it a little bit better. But I mean, that was obviously a good. I mean, I think that was my favorite move of the race. That power wheelie up the inside. It looked quite interesting. The Suzuki, I do like the Suzuki livery and all that with that aero package they have on too. It looks quite nice. It would have been nice to maybe see Iannone out there too, because he kind of goes well in the wet, but I don't know, when it's dry and wet and all sorts, I guess maybe it's not his thing. But at least in the Ducati days, or pretty much any days really, when it was wet, he was always out there. But wasn't for him today. But obviously Rins was good in the dry too. Wet, dry, everything. So he obviously was up there by pace. But I mean, they were battling away for quite a while. Crutchlow, Zarco.
Yeah, they were all kind of just...
And Rins. They kept switching through. Rins tried a lot of times up the inside of whoever was in front of him, and then he'd kind of go wide and come back
Always run wide, unfortunately for Rins. And then sad, Miller made a mistake at the final corner, went wide. Before that, Rins made the mistake because Crutchlow went up inside of Zarco. Rins made a mistake and went wide and allowed Zarco and Crutchlow to get past him. And then it was Crutchlow against...
It was all over for Rins, but he came back quite rapidly, so...
And then, like you say, popped back in. And then it was Uncle Jack against Cal for the lead. Good friends on track and good friends off track. Maybe not so much on track, because everybody's your number one. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I don't know, 2015.
Yes, it would have been in a wet 2015 when did Rossi get the win? I can't remember. I was there and I can't remember. I think it was because Petrucci and Dovi got the podium as well. And then let's see, where was he? And then Crutchlow got the lead. Jack Miller unfortunately went wide at the penultimate corner, tried to gain all the time back at turn 1, went wide, and that really dropped him out of contention. And then it was the three musketeers, Crutchlow, Rins and Zarco, and then...
it looked like Crutchlow was going to run away with it for a moment, but then he made a... I don't know if it was a mistake or if it was just the Honda, the way it kind of went onto the straight, but then Joan kind of blast past like nobody's business on the straight out turn 3 to go to turn 4. It looked like he was just going to run away with it for a moment, and I was going to be like, oh, there's going to be no duel. Well, not that we really got one on the last lap anyway, but it looked like he was going to just kind of vamos, but that wasn't the case, obviously, because he came out that... I don't know if it was every lap or not, but a lot of times I would show him coming out of that corner and the bike would be kind of like wiggling a little bit compared to Joan's bike, which was also kind of surprising because Joan normally uses up his tyres quite a bit, whereas this time around it looked like he was kind of fine, really. Just like Cow on that. Obviously, you saw on a lot of shots through turn 5, that long left, I think it was, when they slid a bit. You could see Rins and Jack Miller, like there was smoke coming off their rear tyres a lot of times, but then when you look at Zarco and Crutchlow, there wasn't so much of that malarkey. Smoking off, so I don't know, maybe they kept their tyres a bit better, just following the front two and let them do their thing.
Yeah. And Zarco as well, that's been his real issue, because he always struggles with keeping tyres at the end, but he showed he actually had tyres to the end, because he was fighting right to the end of the race. I don't know if maybe the dodgy weather kind of helped him keep the tyres, but he was there right in at the end. And it was quite an exciting race all round, really.
I mean, the whole weekend was quite exciting, but that race was definitely funky. I hope it's not the same story in Austin, because that'd just be too bad for me. Hopefully it's another good Grand Prix. We don't know if Marquez is going to get another penalty, if he's going to start.
Well, I mean, I was doing some research today, just having a look out of curiosity whilst everyone was bickering on Facebook and Twitter. Apparently there's no further action for Marquez. Apparently race direction are happy enough with the the punishment they gave him, the 30 seconds, which dropped him out the points. And apparently there's no further action. And whilst I'm glad you said that, Jamie, because I did say in the Marquez-Rossi accident video that we're going to read some of your replies out on the...
Oh, yeah. Let me get that
Let's
out.
Talk.
Well, we're going to read one each, because people have some strong opinions on that.
So we'll start off.
I think there's only like one guy that was chatting a bit interesting.
Yeah. And that was the guy I liked, the Marquez fan who had a bit of a go at me. I was like, okay. Right, we'll start off with this guy sat next to me. Jamie, he popped in. He thinks a last place in Austin, like Rossi got in 2015, would be decent.
Yeah, I thought that was quite... Yeah. I think that's a decent one.
I agree
but
with
also
that.
At the same time, when it happened with Rossi, he didn't get kicked out of the points in 2015, if I remember correctly. He got things took off his license, but he didn't actually get kicked out of the points. So maybe
he got 3 penalty points, and then he got
gave him last place.
One was at San Marino in Bazzano when he held a lace up, I think it was.
So I don't know, but even if they did do that, they put him last. He's just gonna bide his way through more riders. So come on, we think about the riders.
Yeah,
safety.
Exactly. That's the thing. We've seen him do it in the past in 125, in Moto2. He's won from last. Why can't he? He's going to do it in MotoGP, but he's just going to be more aggressive. Anyway, Joshua Rivera, I think that is. He agrees with you, exactly what I was thinking. If not a race ban for 3 penalties in one race. So, yeah, there's a few race bans in here. Jamie, I'll let you read out the big.
Wow, one. you're gonna make me. Okay, so this is coming from a Marquez fan. This comment. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just interesting. So this is from an error. I don't know. It says starts off. Be aware, our Marquez fans are probably biased on this topic. I'm disappointed by his actions on the race, but I don't think he deserves a race ban. Maybe start last place on the grid for the next 2 races, which is interesting. I mean, if I was going to give a race ban, I'd give it from Austin, and that's it. I mean, I wouldn't give it 2. I mean, it's a bit interesting. But obviously, that's this person's opinion. I believe the crash in Argentina is a whole different situation to Malaysia. Maybe that was a complicated condition, and he didn't on purpose crash to Rossi or Alonso.
I don't know.
Maybe. don't know. Same when Rossi done that thing in 2015. He probably didn't mean to make him fall off. He probably just wanted to sit him up wide and be like, "Oi, pack it in," and then he fell off.
Yeah.
And we were like, "Oh, back now."
But the thing is with Marc, the fact that he did it to Aleix and then he did it to Rossi, which just makes it look a lot worse. You know, he's like, well, he's done it before, he's done it again, so he's obviously wanting to do it, sort of thing. Because surely you would learn from the first time. If you got me inside of someone and you go, okay, it's a bit wet here, you go, okay, let's not overtake here.
Especially when you have that much pace, everyone just overtake up in turn 4, turn 2, turn 1,
Marc's not exactly, a dumb kid. He is a clever guy. So I don't really know why he did the same thing twice or 3 times
or something like that. MotoGP, whatever it is.
Because 3 or 4 times even, because he did it to Nakagami. Luckily, Naka got away with it, and I believe he did it to Maverick on the last lap. I'm not sure, but I believe from what Yamaha have kind of added some little hints into their Rossi thing, it sounds like maybe Marquez did it to Maverick as well at the final corner. Anyway, let's carry on with this comment.
He was overly aggressive during the whole race, I know, but I'm sorry for those Rossi fans that don't believe he... What? Don't believe he deserved a race ban.
I think what it means is I'm sorry for the Rossi fans. I don't think he should have got a last race start at the last race of the season.
I think this person might not be English, so they used a translator maybe. Or some sort of thing, because the order of these words is a bit funky, but I can't be bothered to really read the rest of it. But basically, an error thinks that it was aggressive, maybe 2 race ban, but bit OP that. But basically she doesn't, or he or she doesn't think too much about it. So basically, you can see here conclusion: Marc deserved a harsh penalty. Blah blah blah. He was aggressive. And he doesn't, or he or she doesn't think that Marquez is destroying the sport, which I don't think either. I don't know why why Rossi said that, but whatever. Everyone to themselves. It just adds more drama. It's more interesting.
Yeah.
Throughout the season, we're only at round 2, and it's all interessante.
Very interesting. We have Kalkrutzer leading the championship. In fact, he's leading nearly every single championship possible, I think. He's top British rider, he's top independent rider, he's leading the independent rankings, he's leading the championship. Honda's leading the constructors.
It's just Vance.
And then I don't know where the team rankings is.
That was that comment.
Don't see them. Right, Wigan Everton 26. Yes, he deserves a penalty because Rossi received a bigger punishment when he did it to Marquez in 2015.
Because Rossi's biggest punishment back in that season was the fact that he lost the title because of it.
Yeah, that was the ultimate one. If it was a normal race, it wouldn't have been too bad. But the fact that, like you say, he lost the title, that kind of added another level to the Rossi Marquez feud, you could say.
Barris Silva also did this. We've seen this guy on a couple videos now, so it's nice to see. We have some loyal fans out there. But he says, I think that his confidence is poisoning him. He already had the best pace in the race, so he could wait for the best opportunity to overtake Rossi or other riders. He should be given additional penalty for both his own good and for the sake of fairness of MotoGP. And then also you answered that in the comments, so I'm going to read that. I thought it might be someone else agreeing. I think that's a fair comment from Baris there.
Yep.
Got a
we
nice
have another one from Philly Berman. He says that Marquez should have a penalty for taking out Rossi, almost taking out Aleix and Morbidelli. And he says, a race ban, do you think? And then we also have Saifik. His dangerous riding habit almost makes 2 out of the 3 riders that he hit not fall off. Start from the last position is a good decision for him and everyone else, but still not a good enough punishment. 3 penalties in a row? Wow.
That's got to be a record or something.
Yeah, it must be.
Surely. Antonio Ortiz Nunez, we've seen this guy pop up on a couple of times in the comments too. 1 race suspension, better knock some sense into that guy. You can tell that he was pretty nervous in the debriefing interview, and he knew he was guilty. Hope he fixes those dangerous habits of ease, and he was clearly faster than anyone else. And he doesn't have to bulldoze his way through the field, and then a good video. So, most of the people in this comment section, they're pretty much saying the same thing, apart from obviously that one person, which was the Marquez fan. Here we have Motorsport News. Don't know if this is a similar channel to ours. Don't know if we've got some competition out here. Don't know. Honestly, I can't believe it took out Rossi of like people. But I'm so happy for Cal. Though, hands down, he was mega. But I think Marc needs more of a punishment. Once again, kind of saying the same thing. Gilzo, 46, he definitely should be, he definitely should have been black flag, no doubt about it. So he thinks straight up disqualification out of the Grand Prix, which, I mean, he pretty much got anyway. Because when you don't finish in the points, it's kind of like, it's the same as a disqualification. You think about it at the end of the day, because you're disqualified.
That's what I was
thinking. You get
thinking.
no points with that penalty. You don't get the points either. But obviously, if he had been disqualified, Rossi wouldn't have fallen off. At least wouldn't have got sent to Narnia. Lots of stuff like that. Brother from another mother put banned.
Great name that is, brother from another mother. Great name.
So he put banned.
And then the great Baldini. I don't agree with this one. Rossi should be given the P5 result. Don't agree with it because then the guys who actually fought to get the position that they got, even though they got kind of two positions, if you like, Rossi and then Marquez's gifted to them, but they were fighting for, Siren, for example, he got inside the top 10, and if he was to be pushed outside the top 10 sort of thing, I know it would be pushed to 10th by somebody who didn't actually finish the race at no fault of his own, and it wouldn't be fair for the other competitors.
Yeah, it's obviously like a good idea, but at the same time, it's
because
just
Bradley Smith could then say, "Well, I crashed. Can I have my position back?" Sort of thing, or whatever. So, yeah, that one I don't agree with because it would trigger
those points, please. That would just trigger a lot of chaos.
It would trigger
controversy, stuff like that.
The same thing happening over and over and over again throughout the season. He says he should have a 3-race ban, which
I mean, it goes up and up and up, doesn't it?
Get up and up. And then he's got Team Honda should have a 2-race ban. I don't agree with that because that is unfair on Danny Pedrosa.
Imagine that. Danny's like, right, let's go, get ready. My wrist is fine. I'm like, oh no, because your teammate.
You can't race because you're a dumb teammate.
We'll go through the field like a madman. You can't race. So I mean, yeah, that little part of the comment doesn't make too much
the next bit I agree with half of it, and I was going to say this earlier, but then we got distracted with something else, is that Marc should be on a caution, and that if he breaks one more rule, and then this is the part that I don't agree with, he says, and his team Honda would be banned from competing for the remainder of the season. Now, I don't agree with that. I think it should be Marc who should be banned for a race. I think he should be start from last in Austin. If he breaks another rule, next race immediately start from banned basically. So start from last in Austin would be suitable. Yeah. If he breaks a rule, banned for a race. That's it, because that's the only way he's going to learn. And then if he does it again, you're going to have to ban him again. And just keep doing that until he learns, because that's what you have in the penalty points. A good
idea, that have him on like the watch list, and
exactly.
Did he even get any points put onto his license thing, like those penalty point things?
I don't know. I've not seen any. So
because every rider gets points for everything these days, and then he just smashed through the field, and I don't think he got any. I mean, you see riders just give the middle finger to someone and boom, there's some points for you. And then he just kind of, smashes his way through the field and maybe nothing. But I mean, yeah. Interesting comments. That was the quite interesting, quite lit.
And then the last little bit, he says he also would extend that rule to the Moto3 rider who deliberately took out his competitor, Toba taking out Binder. Maybe not deliberately. He did get on the wet patch and had a wobble and did hit him, but I do think maybe some sort of penalty should have got involved. Can it? Yeah, that's probably the one he's on about, actually. Yeah, good point. Can it and Yachenko? That definitely should have been a penalty, even if it was just a time penalty in qualifying. That would have been.
I mean,
fine,
anything, because you can't just do that.
You can't just deliberately ride it.
He said, "Oh no, it was an accident. That means no penalty." That means if I just was on that grid, I'd just get everyone and kick them off the bike and be like,
exactly.
My foot slipped off the peg. It was an accident.
I had some oil on my boot and it slipped.
Yeah, it wasn't my fault. So you can't give me a penalty. It's just a bit.
My brakes didn't work and I just rammed him. I had a tyre problem and I just couldn't stop. It's like the whole thing that I was on about with the Rossi giving the P5 result. that would just trigger again a whole different.
Yeah.
You know, and that probably, I think that might be the case because, you know, Marquez said, I hit a wet patch and lost the front and hit Rossi. There was a small movement from the front, but I wouldn't really say it was major. And one of the Spanish channels, or Italian, I think it was Spanish, they did a slow-mo zoom in on Marquez's fork, and you see the fork extend, so he's let the brake off and then just hit Rossi. So, I don't know.
Anyway, I don't want to crash, so we'll take someone else out.
Exactly, that was that.
That was the weekend, a fairly interesting weekend. What would you rate it out of 10?
What would I rate out of 10? Wow.
I think I'd probably go for maybe an 8 or 9, just because there was so much interesting drama going on. Not only the actual race, there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. You know, Lorenzo.
The whole event, the actual, the racing that we got, the entertainment, 10 out of 10. But the whole organisation, the race direction,
definitely
the way the weekend went.
5-year-old kids in race direction.
2 or 3 out of 10. So yeah, I agree. 7 or 8 out of 10 for the weekend. Provided good racing.
Definitely looks some good 5-year-olds in that race direction.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that thing that I sent you of the kids just in a circle.
It was overall an exciting weekend. Obviously, it makes it exciting for Austin because you got all these people that look at Marquez and like, you know what, I don't like him. So maybe they might act all aggressive with him now in the next race. You never know what's going to happen. Obviously, we have all the media.
Is revenge? Is revenge on the list?
It's all very, very interesting.
Somebody, right? So before we leave, we'll just quickly go through the race results because we didn't actually do that. So, Cal Crutchlow won, obviously, as we said. Zarco second, getting another podium. When will the win come for Zarco? Le Mans? Okay, he's calling it. He's calling it.
Le Mans. He's going to do it in his home Grand Prix. He's going to have that extra fighting spirit for the round.
If he does it, this clip here, this little bit that's from when is Zarco going to get a win? Le Mans, that will be the start of the French Let's Talk. Right, Alex Rins was third. First podium. For Rins, the first podium for Suzuki since Phillip Island 2016, when, funny enough, Crutchlow won that race as well, so don't know what's going on.
Keep winning, maybe we can get more Suzukis on the podium.
Jack Miller, unfortunately, fourth position for him. I say unfortunately, it was a good race for him. He rode very well. Good weekend from the start.
Good weekend.
But robbed, I think, definitely robbed of a win or at least a podium. Maverick Vinales got 5th position after Marquez's demotion. He did cross the line in 5th, did Marc, but dropped down into 18th position. He was ahead of Dovizioso. He sits 6th on the board, ahead of Rabat, who we didn't actually talk about at all in this Let's Talk. He had a pretty
he had a good grid slot, but then he kind of just went backwards. He didn't go forward in any moment of the Grand Prix, but he stayed on the bike, which was good. He got some good points. Don't know if it was his best finish or not. Obviously, it was his best grid slot, I think, from qualifying. But he done pretty well there. Didn't talk about him a lot, but he done decent.
He was ahead of the second Suzuki rider, Iannone, and then the top rookie. Saw a few of you guys asking about this guy. Has he Siren P9 for him, a top 10, and he beat some pretty big names if you look down the list. So yeah, obviously the fish working well in the damp conditions, the mixed conditions, and yeah, like Jamie said, he looked comfortable on the bike, and he's only going to get better and better. So will he be able to fight with Zarco at the end of the season?
Don't know, maybe because are they on different bikes? Are they on the same bike now?
I don't know. I think Siren's on the 2017 bike.
I just don't know why the factory Yamaha don't just take Zarco's bike, because they own it pretty much. Why don't they just copy and paste that and give it to their riders? Because it's always up there. You always see Joan up there, then you see it's like, where's Maverick then? Oh, P8. Okay, that's dope. But
Siren
the Yamaha probably know what they're doing.
Siren was 8th in practice 3, and if he is on the 2017 bike, then that's like a good 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 positions higher than what the factory bikes was in the wet last year. So the bike can kind of get inside the top 10, and obviously
it's not possible. We'll soon
not that
see
dangerous as what Rossi said it was.
If it doesn't perform well when we get to, what was it, Catalonia, I think it was, when that bike
Jerez
flopped last season. So if we get there and then he's
Hot
just
Spanish tracks.
at the back saying, nah, this thing's unrideable, then obviously Marquez and Maverick had what would it be? Don't know.
I know where you're going, but I can't think of the word either.
They would have the right... what would that be? Can't even English anymore.
Anyway,
basically what they would have said would have been correct, that the bike was unrideable. Basically. I don't know what the word is for that malarkey.
Rounding out the top 10 was Danilo Petrucci, who we mentioned earlier had the collision with Aleix Espargaro. A little bit disappointed for Petrucci, actually. I thought it would have...
I mean, if the GP team don't work too well, then meh, but Dobby was a little way ahead of Petrucci on the actual track. So,
I mean, he finished... let's have a look. He finished... he only finished 3 seconds in front, actually. 3 or 4 seconds. That was...
But it was a lot bigger at one moment.
Yeah.
I mean, no one knows what happened in that Grand Prix because Lorenzo was like so far back, like ridiculously far back between anyone, and then he overtook them all, which I don't see the logic. Because didn't they say it was like 10 seconds or something like that behind Simeon? Like the guy was in last.
He was.
Then how on earth did he pull back all that time? Or not just Simeon, he would have been dropping seconds back every lap to the people ahead of him because he's trash. How did he catch all that time up and overtake him, and then overtake
I don't know.
pretty much half the field to get to the points? I don't know how that happened because he's not talking
honestly,
about it. So
I don't know. And I will move on to Lorenzo in just a little bit. We're going to quickly just run through the rest of the point finishes. Paul Espargaro, good result for KTM, just outside the top 10, just a few seconds behind a GP18. So that would be quite impressive for KTM. Be quite proud of the job that they've done in Argentina because, Bradley Smith was looking good as well before his crash.
They do need to get some more of these kind of like good points finishes. Obviously, Qatar was just... don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But this is a step in the right direction, I suppose, there from... Yeah. And they would have had double points if...
would have, but Bradley unfortunately tipped off at turn 1. Scott Redding was 12th. Probably his first points of the season after a tyre issue, I think it was, or just some sort of issue for Scott in Qatar. Aleix ran out of fuel, and then obviously this time Aleix got punted off twice, and Scott managed to get his bike back. The feeling that he liked in a bike. Yep. He got it back. P12 for him, ahead of Nakagami and Morbidelli, the two rookies in 13th and 14th position, and then ahead of Lorenzo, who picks up his first point of the year.
Sounds almost unimpressive to say.
I know. As soon as I said that, I was like, that just does not sound right at all.
Obviously, in Qatar, he had some funky malarkey going on in this race. No one knows what happened, but he did get a point after the brave efforts of, putting like ridiculous amount of gap on everyone in the midfield. So I don't really know what happened.
And
there, he knows what went down.
Lucky as well,
it's a bit better in Austin.
If Marquez hadn't been given that 30-second... Well, if he had been given a 30-second penalty, but Lorenzo was a few seconds behind, he might not have even got points at all. And to be beaten by somebody who had a ride-through, -1 position, and 2 ride-throughs technically with a 30-second penalty, to still get beaten by him, that would have been quite embarrassing. But luckily Lorenzo didn't.
That would have been quite interesting. Obviously, he does have the aero package back on now, I think.
He had the...
So I don't know, maybe... I don't know if he used it throughout the weekend or not. Whenever I had it on, he didn't.
I never saw him with it.
So he might have just thought, I'll just throw it on for this Grand Prix, and then it might have just felt alien. He did say the other day into Spanish media that they're getting an upgrade for Austin, I think, or something like that. An aero upgrade or something like that. So
they're getting an aero
maybe
upgrade.
they're going to start working with him a bit more, because he did say he's trying to make the bike work with him, or they're trying to make it work with him or something. So, I don't know, we'll soon see.
They're not bothered in contract negotiations with Jorge. They just bothered on getting him to where he should be. That's
and then you can focus on a contract if he can actually ride. Obviously, we saw the end of last year, he got really good. And there's this... But, I mean, Kaito wasn't looking awful. And then, obviously, those issues came. And then here...
Qatar, the position wasn't good, but the lap times he was putting in was exactly the same as the race leaders. So
obviously, if he had a better qualifying or a better start, cause I think he got a bit wrecked in the first lap. If he had been there, then he would have probably been on the grid the entire way. But I don't know. But I think he'll be okay in Austin. I hope it just depends on how this new Ducati goes around Austin. And obviously, when we get to Europe, he'll definitely be up there for sure. I mean, he was up there last year, so he would be up there this year. You would have thought, but it's quite interesting, really. You know, Jorge Lorenzo got his first.
Another interesting point of Lorenzo is what I saw earlier, and that was the Suzuki rumour that apparently he's signed for Suzuki, but I'm not sure yet. We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. We'll also talk about
we will be bringing some updates on that. We will be probably doing an opinion video. I think, Jamie, you might have that one. I'm not sure. We'll have to work it out, but we will be doing a video just discussing that and the possibilities and what we think Lorenzo would do on a bike that we personally think would suit him a little bit better. We'll have to wait and see. Right, before we round up, and I mean literally before we round up, championship standings very quick. Crutchlow leads 38 points ahead of Dovi, who, by the way, didn't mention this, he saw the flag. He saw the checkered flag for the first time in Argentina for about 2 years. So that's good for Dovi. Zarco in third position, top Yamaha for him. He's ahead of Maverick Vinales by 7 points. And if Ducati don't work around Austin, then and Crutchlow finishes, he's still going to lead the championship. He's going to go into Europe as the championship leader, which I didn't think I'd be saying, actually, going into the season. But good on you, Cal. Let's keep it going. If you can get top 5 in the championship, then that'd be good. Right, Marquez 5th in the championship after his, obviously, non-point scoring finish in Argentina. Two races in a row at Argentina, he's not scored points. So he's only 1 point ahead of Jack Miller as well, who is the second Ducati, ahead of his teammate Petrucci. It makes a change to see the teammate ahead of Petrucci. And then it has Valentino Rossi in 8th, joint points with Alex Rins. Obviously, both of them guys getting the 3rd position. Rossi in Qatar, Rins in Argentina. Then it's Iannone, who is just 1 point behind his teammate. Rabat in 11th. Danny Pedrosa down in 12th position after obviously getting kind of took out in Argentina. Siren in 13th. Morbidelli in 14th place, just a couple of points behind Siren. So Siren, top rookie. Again, I wouldn't have expected to say that really after him missing valuable track time at the start of testing. And
Siren ahead of Lorenzo in the championship is beyond me.
The fact, all the rookies ahead of Lorenzo apart from Simeon is beyond me. But yeah, Morbidelli 14th, Paul Espargaro in 15th position with Scott Redding 16th, Bautista 17th, he's got 3 points, as well as Nakagami, who's in 18th, and then Karel Abraham with 1 point in 19th, and then the last man to score the points in 20th position, Jorge Lorenzo.
It's quite disappointing. He can easily kind of come back from that. You know, all it takes is for the front bunch to fall off one race and him to get a good result, and that's it. But I mean, it's just probably not the best way to start off your season. Obviously, last year started off the same too. It's all a bit disappointing.
Yeah, and I have a feeling the same thing's going to happen. Go to Jerez, he'll be fighting at the front. It's a track that he loves. It's a track that, put him on a Moto3 bike and he'd probably still do bits. It's just a track that he really, really loves. And I think
Europe
he'll be
is
going
to be the
make
or break.
Because
even if they don't...
last year, like you said, it was as soon as he got to Europe, we had the kind of old Lorenzo back.
It does look like, though, he has lost that... Because even he was saying about it on Spanish media, that he's lost that kind of... Those quick starts that he always used to do. He's kind of lost that little kind of advantage. Because he doesn't launch off the line anymore. But then it's only been 2 races, so it's a new bike. We'll have to see. But it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully he does win a race. At least get podiums. I mean, if not, it's a bit depressing.
If not, then...
But I mean, if not, who are they going to take? Because they're clearly not interested in Petrucci, because they don't even want him in the B team.
There's only... Well, you would say maybe Iannone, bringing him back. But
hey, we fired you.
would he
but we
only
want you
want
back.
to go back to a team that he got fired at?
So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting situation from them. I mean, it could always just.
I know. I've got
Hero.
the best possible solution, guys. Let's promote Simeon. Yes.
Or imagine that they just
Let's
call
get
up
the position
Stoner. They're
petition.
like, "Yo, Stoner, can you just give one season? It's just one season." And he's like,
that would be so
"Okay." Comes in,
so
wins
cool.
it, then just goes again. It's like, right, that's it. You said one season. That's all I'm doing. But that would be
by the way,
interesting. Obviously, we'll
just
see
reminded me, actually, of Simeon. 1 minute 10 seconds he finished behind. 47 seconds behind in Qatar. 1 minute 10. It's getting worse.
It's just going to get embarrassing. And then Austin, it's going to be too hard for him. The flip flops.
Oh God.
But that was.
Whilst we were recording this, Declan popped up, the owner of Everything MotoGP. He said that now there's an argument between Simeon and Alicia Spargaro on Twitter. Something to do along the lines of money and a ride is getting thrown. So it's all getting a bit heated everywhere.
This is interesting. This is going to turn into a drama channel, you'll see. It'll be on about all sorts. But that was the Argentinian race of weekend. Obviously, as you just seen for the last 50 minutes. I mean, this is only the MotoGP thing, for God's sake. He said it's going to be half hour.
I didn't expect it to be this long. We just got carried away.
But
as we always do.
Definitely very interesting Grand Prix to say the least. Hopefully the stewards or the race direction, whatever. Hopefully they're more professional, logical, whatever, in Austin.
Fair, consistent.
Than what they've been in Argentina, because it's just been a bit dumb, really. But it was but at the same time, with all that stupidity, it was fun. I mean, as a viewer, you're watching.
It was a good laugh.
This is quite interesting. Bit of bants. But that was the Argentina weekend. A good one overall. Also, we got Austin in the not too distant future. I mean, it's like
and we also have
Superbikes this weekend, Formula 1, Shanghai
British
this weekend,
and Formula 1. So keep your eyes peeled for some content for that. But let's talk for more Superbikes. A few videos on BSB here and there. We also have a Red Bull Rookies video coming out soon. The rider lineups. I have literally all my paperwork here for that. So keep your eyes peeled for that. See who is in there. And there we go. Question of the day. What can we do? Come on, Jamie. Think of a question of the day.
What did you have for dinner?
There you go. There's a question of the day. Right. Right. Okay.
People just come on the Let's Talk. They can scroll the comments. Some pasta, some tequila, some curry.
MotoGP food. Decent. Right. So let's not make this video go on any longer than what it needs to be. So that was the Argentina Let's Talk for MotoGP round number 2 of the season. What a race it was. We had everything from weather to great racing to taking everybody out, and that was
to drama,
the story of round 2. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below of what you thought about the race. What you would like to see on the channel. If you would like to see more British Talent Cup stuff, I was going to do a video, but didn't do one in the end because I wasn't sure what to see. So if there's anything you want to see from any other form of motorsport, let us know down in the comments, and we will do our best to do a few one-off videos here and there on that, or maybe a little series. And I think that's it. So it's a goodbye from me. Hope you enjoyed the video. And
ciao, adios, something from me.
And we'll see you guys next time for the American one. Goodbye.